Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Buffalo Bills fan Charlie Nelson from the Bills from Afar Podcast as we preview the AFC Divisional Round Games. Charlie discusses Bills head coach Sean McDermott as the Bills prepare to face the Denver Broncos on the road.
McDermott is often underrated. He's a very good defensive mind, and when it comes to single games and crafting that unique game plan for a particular quarterback, I think McDermott is very strong at that.
And I discuss CJ Stroud going into the Texans game against the New England Patriots in Foxborough.
He had probably one of his worst games of his career, and he still put up 30 points.
Hope you all enjoy.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, as we look ahead to the AFC Divisional Round Games. You'd have seen by now, I'm sure, our NFC episode, which had 49ers fan Paul Hope, as well as Seahawks fan Josh Edwards come on the show. So if you haven't checked that out already, go check it out if you want to see all things NFC talked about. But we are talking all things AFC today, as the Bills travel to Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans travel to New England Patriots. And as you can see, for those watching on YouTube, you can see my guest. He is a familiar face, a returning guest on the show. It's one of our resident Bills fans, Charlie Nelson from the Bills from Afar podcast. Charlie, first of all, great to have you on.
Yeah, good to see you, Andy. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Of course, those would have seen now the Twitter or X announcement that we are going to the Super Bowl. So very excited about that. And thank you for everyone who shared a message so far on socials. We really do appreciate the support, because without that, I wouldn't be doing this. So yeah, looking forward to that a lot. And I was thinking before we did this podcast, can you believe it's 3 years since we met in person in Detroit? Can you believe
it's crazy, isn't it? It's time flies, isn't it? But fantastic you get to go to the Super Bowl. It's great location, obviously in California. I have good friends who live just 10 minutes away from the stadium. So it's I have actually visited that stadium. I think you have as well, right? I think you've been to that one. Not my favorite NFL stadium, I have to say, but I'm sure it'll be a good Super Bowl one for you.
The thing for me is that, I've been to that stage, but I only saw the first quarter, because when you go on holiday with friends who aren't into the NFL and they book the flights, that's the kind of that's what you get. is that kind of where we had to. It was a Thursday night game against, who were they playing? Oh my god, my mind's gone blank as to who. I'm going to find it out, because I'm.
I just remember this, where you had to jump out early so you could make it to somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had to literally, our flight was booked. Literally, I think the game ended about half an hour before the flight would have left, so we had to leave in the end of the first quarter. I will find out who it was against, but no, I just can't believe it's been 3 years since. Your very kind activity on Twitter stopped me getting stranded in Buffalo. So it seems
we do what we can, my friend. We do what we can.
Yeah, I mean, it seems insane that back in 2022, that's now been 3 years, 3 and a bit years since, and it's just scary how time flies.
It really is. It really is.
Well, let's head on to the two games. Our first game does involve Charlie's team in the Buffalo Bills, as the 6th seed travel to the number 1 seed Denver Broncos. Charlie, first of all, how are you feeling about the game?
I feel okay about it. Obviously, this Denver team is quite different to the team that we played in the playoffs last year, and that was pretty much a blowout. They stepped up considerably. Number 1 seed, they're coming on the back of 2 weeks rest, which was always challenging, and especially with the Bills are beaten up to hell. We got all kinds of players in the reserve, and Josh Allen took several hits last week, so that's a challenge. But I actually think that we saw some really encouraging signs from the Bills in this last game against the Jaguars. They found another way to win. In the past, earlier in the season, if James Cook's run game wasn't clicking, then we really struggled to do anything going downfield in the passing game. But that now has changed. However, that Denver defense is pretty formidable, one of the best in the league. But I don't imagine that Denver offense is going to score a whole heap on Buffalo. I think the Bills defense in the last few weeks has really been the story, how much it's improved. And I think if we can get some good complementary football going, we should be in good shape. So actually, I feel quite good about it. I think it's a really tight, in terms of the betting, it's pretty tight between the two. Essentially, it's a coin flip. It's going to come out to who plays their best on the day. But I actually feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing the Bills fans should be excited to be hopeful about is the fact that, the one kryptonite to Buffalo Bills seasons, the Mahomes and the Chiefs, aren't going to be there. There's
Correct.
no Joe Burrow, who's beaten them in the playoffs before. There's no Lamar Jackson. I think literally every quarterback bar Stafford has not won a Super Bowl or even played in one. So it feels like, even though you're going to be spending the rest of the season on the road, it's going to be, if you win this game, it's going to be either in Houston or against New England. I mean, this is for me. I mean, first of all, New England, you've won a game in New England, but does that almost give you a little bit of hope that, if you were to, obviously you've got tough games to come, if it was to beat the Broncos, you've got two tough teams to play, but does that sort of give you that bit of confidence, the fact that, you haven't got to deal with that constant source of pain and constant sort of what has been Josh Allen's kryptonite? Does it feel to you a bit like there's no real clear standout in this AFC? Broncos have got their faults, Patriots and Texans the same. Does that give you that confidence that this Bills team can potentially go far in the playoffs?
So actually, I don't feel any more optimistic than I normally would. The best 7 teams are in the AFC are in the playoffs. If the Chiefs were in there, then they'd be with the weakest team in the conference, because they dropped off quite a lot. So we're quite happy to play the Chiefs right now. It's not the same Chiefs as we've seen in recent years. They're not the same beast, and obviously we've seen the Ravens drop off considerably from being forecast to be the best roster in the league at the start of the season to really sort of struggle to get much of anything going throughout. So we respect all the 3 teams that are left. Very much focused on Denver. Every team has got some kind of unique strength, but also some weakness. And I think that in the case of the Broncos, it's their offense. In the case of the Texans, it's their offense. And I'm not convinced about the defense on the Patriots side of the ball. We saw them have a bit of a meltdown against us not that long ago. So it's really going to come down to matchups. I think the one thing that Bills really have in their favor is their playoff experience. And I do think that counts, especially as you get deeper in, the game planning, the preparation. These are not nothing things. When it comes down to coin flip games, it's about what can give you that extra edge. And the other thing is the Bills have the best quarterback remaining in the league. So, he's definitely one of the best 3 or 4 in the league. And as you mentioned, some of the other guys that aren't there. So we're not going up against those real game changers of the people that can make a massive difference, like a Mahomes, like a Lamar Jackson, like a Joe Burrow. So that certainly helps me. It certainly makes me feel a bit more confident. If it is tight at the end of the game, I fancy Josh to make the difference.
Well, you mentioned the Broncos. The test is there. I mean, they've got the second best run defense in the league, which would be a massive, threat to the threat that Josh Allen and James Cook possess, but also they've got the 7th best pass defense. So this is a defense that those of you in the UK who are watching or listening would have seen them in London. How good their defense is there. We've seen Bo Nix come up with moments sometimes in the fourth quarter that makes you think he can go from doing nothing to doing something like that. But I'm fully aware that is their weakness, and I think if you're going to win this game, it is going to be down to basically Bo Nix struggling or the offense struggling. I don't think the defense is going to down tools, but I think certainly your way is to. I kind of view it as 2 things. It's either Bo Nix having an absolute meltdown, or it's Josh Allen turned into Superman. And I think that, he is, you said it there exactly, the best quarterback in the playoffs, not the best this season. I think Stafford may have got that crown, but I think for overall body load, over the last 3-4 years, Josh Allen has been the best quarterback, certainly out of the quarterbacks left, maybe even in the whole NFL. Yeah. So I kind of feel like the defense.
There's a third way. There is a third way, which is the Bills get their tight end game going. I think the Bills have got one of the strongest tight end rooms in the league. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. They have been in really good form recently. And And the Broncos defense is not amazing at defending against tight ends. So I can imagine there'll be times where we go 31 personnel. We've got 3 tight ends on the field and run it behind those big guys, as well as presenting options in the passing game for Josh. I think they will. It'll be a low-scoring game. I think the Bills will try and grind it out. Take a long time over the drives. I also think that, if we look at what the Bills defense did against Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence is a much better quarterback than Bo Nix. I think we all agree with that. They gave him all kinds of weird and wonderful looks on the backside. Bo Nix is not that experienced, and Trevor Lawrence threw 2 interceptions. I think that the defense on the Bills side, although it's been pretty bottom third in the league, if you look at it over the course of the season, if you actually look at what they've done in the last month or two, it's actually improved quite dramatically, and the pass defense is very good. Broncos run offense is not all that, and that's the weakness of the Bills. So it's strength against strength and weakness against weakness. So I think when all these things are even, that's where maybe Josh Allen can make a difference. But I do think the Bills' tight end game is going to be worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all probably establish that whilst the Bills might have the best quarterback in the playoffs, the wide receiver room probably isn't.
Probably the worst.
Probably the worst. Yeah, probably the worst. But I think there's the tight end set there. I've said for years, Dawson Knox is so underrated. I don't think he gets anywhere near as much love as he should. And we all know what Kincaid can do on his day. And I think as well, you talk about the defense and sort of the getting to Trevor Lawrence and not being as good being a better quarterback than Bo Nix. I mean, you think about the most recent game against the Patriots, Drake May, MVP contender, 0 touchdowns in that win, in the 3-point win last time in Foxborough as well. So that's not even just sort of positive sort of faith. That's not just encouragement for this game going into a tough place in the altitude, but also if you are to play New England next in Foxborough, I mean you've got a tape there on May that that you can stop Drake May and you can beat the Patriots on the road. I think
so. Yeah. I think McDermott is often underrated. He's a very good defensive mind, and when it comes to single games and crafting that unique game plan for a particular quarterback, I think McDermott is very strong at that. Bo Nix is not that experienced, and I think he's a really good scrambler. I think the Bills are going to have their wits about them in terms of using his legs, and when he gets out of the pocket, I think that he can be dangerous that way. His passing on the move is pretty good. But yeah, I think going up against Drake May, they're going to be carrying some skeletons given the game they played against us not that long ago. They look like they should have it dead and buried, and then we battered them in the end. So it was we definitely have that confidence, but I think we need to be careful not to look too far ahead. I think that the Broncos deserve our respect, and we're going to need to be as best as we can be to get past them.
Absolutely, and it's all of that one game at a time approach that I think a lot of teams or sports teams in general go down. I mean, the amount of times I've seen Premier League teams, be 10, 11 points up in February, and they're asking about, even Declan Rice got asked it recently about, if you become champions, and they're very much, Van Dijk was the same, Jordan Henderson was the same, and Rice has been this year just very adamant that it is one game at a time. And I think you have to approach that because in any kind of sport, because I think you look too far ahead, you're going to ultimately, it's sort of a lose-lose situation unless you win the whole thing. So for me, I think especially as a road team, they're not at home. I think the emotion side is out of it now. There's no, because I always thought for a while, final game of Highmark could be that AFC Championship game, and I think I even said it on the season preview. And this is for me, now you've got that out the way, the emotions out the window. You haven't got to think about that. You're on the road. I think almost. It reminds me a bit like Philadelphia when they won the Super Bowl for the first time with Nick Foles. Constant underdogs, and I think that the Eagles team fed into that underdog mentality. They bought into it, and I think the Bills. I think they're going to have to build into that underdog mentality and almost feel like it's us against them, it's us against us against the NFL.
It reminds me a little bit of those sort of late stage Belichick teams, almost, where they weren't the best roster, but they were wily, they were experienced, and they knew how to win games when it got tight, and they didn't buckle under the pressure. The playoffs is a different beast compared to regular season, where there's always next week. The pressure ratchets up, and that's where the inexperience can show. So I mean, you never know. It's been a weird season for the Bills. We've had a huge amount of injuries. The wide receiver room has been poor on a good day, and then on a bad day it's been decimated. I think we have 3 healthy wide receivers right now, so we lost 2 to ACLs just in the last game alone. Not massive role players, but still contributors. So they're going to have to elevate somebody from the practice squad, I suspect, or maybe I don't know what they're going to do wide receiver, honestly, but it's going to be limited. And I think this means it's going to be a tight end heavy game plan because we haven't got an awful lot of quality there. Probably going into the draft, you can look out for the Bills picking, in the first round and somebody at wide receiver, I think. But yeah, it's going to be a struggle. But this Bills run game, when it gets going, is very effective. They are going to have to find, I think, a bit more diversity in terms of their game planning compared to what they did against the Jags. They did a lot of up the middle stuff, and the Jags saw that coming. I think they need to be a bit more varied in that run game. Maybe we'll see a bit of James Cook using the run game as well. In the passing game, some short dump offs, get him out in space, get them running, and see if we can get some yak.
Well, now it's time for our predictions. And Charlie, as you are the guest, I'm going to let you go first. Who wins this game for you?
So I've got the Bills winning, and I've got them winning 27-20. That's the prediction we put on Bills from Afar. Tim, my co-host, is much more conservative about it, but just winning by a field goal. But I actually feel pretty good about this. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Back the under if you're a betting person, but I do fancy the Bills to win by about a touchdown.
Well, I've got the Bills winning as well. Now, I did have the Bills losing to the Jags because I didn't think the Bills would be able to cope with that Jags defense. But what I saw, they coped with it pretty well. So I'm confident in the Bills being able to handle this Broncos defense. So I'm going to go for the Bills win. I think this will be a 3-point game. I can see it being quite close because I do think the Broncos will give it some effort. And I think they are the 1 seed for a reason. We shouldn't discount them. And I do believe, again, it's probably the one I'm least confident out of the 2 games, prediction-wise. But for me, I just think that what I've seen, if this was wildcard round, I would have said that the Broncos win because the defense I thought would have caused them problems, and we saw Josh Allen, albeit it was a few years ago now, when we played them at the Dolphins in the 2022 season, how much the defense caused them problems. And I think if the Broncos can do that, I think they won this game because I think if you stop Josh Allen, he is the life and soul of this team. I think if he has a difficult game, I think the Broncos win this. But I think if Josh Allen plays the way he did for the majority of that game against the Jags, I can see him handling this Broncos defense. But we'll move on to the second game, which involves both our AFC's rivals in the New England Patriots, as they, as the second seed, host the fifth seed Houston Texans after their win against the Steelers on Monday night. Tough game. I think the Texans sort of breezed past the Steelers. It was, the defense definitely made up for Stroud's limitations in the game. He had probably one of his worst games of his career, and he still put up 30 points. So it shows the kind of defense that this Texans team has. For me, it's the best defense in the league. But the Patriots team, they also sort of had it fairly easy against the Chargers. I mean, again, it was a quarterback that I don't think it was May's best performance. And the Chargers defense did well at times, but that Chargers offense just couldn't get anything going. And Herbert, 0-3 now in playoff games. So he's got a lot of question marks. But I thought the Patriots defense was good, but I don't think it was anything to write home about. So it's intriguing how this game goes. I think we've seen Stroud perform in playoff games most of the time. He's already had 3 playoff wins in his career. He's only in his 3rd season as a pro. So the Texans, for me, I think the fact that they scored 30 points with Stroud not playing at his best, I think even if Stroud has half of what he can do, if he puts up 60% of what he can do, then I think they win this game personally. I'm going to go for the Texans to win. I think the Patriots, again, we mentioned playoff experience. I think this is May's second ever playoff game, and Mike Vrabel's got experience as the coach, and he will have a big part in them winning the game if they do this. And it is in Foxborough, but I just think this Texas defense is way too strong. And I think that May showed some nerves in the last game. He showed some limitations in the big moments. So I'm going to go for the Texans to win. And I think scoreline-wise, I do think the Texans win this game by 10.
Okay.
So I'm confident and hopeful as well of a Texans win. But yeah, I'm going to go for the Texans to win. Charlie, for you, how are you seeing this game? I mean, you see like myself, you see the Patriots come to your team twice a year. How are you feeling about the game? Who do you think wins it?
Yeah, so we've also played the Texans this season, and they gave us a bit of a hiding. That defense ripped us apart. I'd like to think we'd have a better game plan against them now. But I also see that the Texans winning this game. I just think that defense is an absolute game wrecker. I think it's going to be a tough day for Drake May and the Patriots. And I think what we've seen is that the Texans' offense has started to warm up a little bit. That offensive line has obviously not been great, but I think it's started to settle down a little bit, and I think they're just about going to have enough. What I would say though is obviously the experience on the Patriots side of the ball with Vrabel, and I do think the Patriots are going to make it competitive. So I got it much closer than you do, but yeah, I've got the Texans winning 27-24, so a bit closer, but I do think the Texans are going to come out on top, as that Texans defense is the best unit on the field, and I think that's going to count.
Absolutely. And I think, the whole saying is that defense wins championships, and I think this Texans team will define that. They are my pick to win the AFC at the moment. I do think the Bills are getting closer towards that prediction for me. But I think in terms of this Texans team, I think, again, I said before, the fact that they can go put up 30 points, albeit against not the best offense in the world, a team that weren't the best, but the fact they put up that many points without your quarterback playing well, I just think, imagine what happens if Stroud has a great day. I mean, he showed it before. I mean, even the Chiefs loss, I've mentioned this before a lot of times, so apologies to you regular listeners, but I remember that Chiefs game involving Stroud last season where he did all he could, and it was down to mistakes from receivers dropping balls. It was kick returns being fumbled. And for me, I think Stroud, he's not his best game, and he didn't. I don't believe he threw for a touchdown in this game, but or if not, it was in garbage time. But the fact that they can win games, for me, I think this team's a jet. I do think the Patriots, though, I think May has his deep ball has been really impressive this year. I think he is probably just going to lose out to Matt Stafford. I think an MVP couldn't win it. It could surprise me win it, but I think for the Patriots, I think expectations do change. But I do feel like for them, they would have bitten your hand off for this start of the year. If you told them divisional round exit, first real season for Drake May properly as a starter, I think they would have taken it. So for me, I do believe it's the end of the road for the Patriots. But you never know in Foxborough, that place, we saw for years in Foxborough what that place can do. And I think, again, this could easily cause. And Stroud had a bad day, and I think, a better team might have punished him in that game. So if Stroud has another performance like that, I think the Patriots team would cause more problems than the Steelers would. So it's a coin flip. I think this is the easiest one to pick out the two, but I think it's still tough. I think we're at that time of the year where every game now is going to be a coin flip pretty much.
Competitive. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely. Best NFL weekend of the year in terms of quality, isn't it? It's just 4 really exciting games. So I can't wait to get into them.
Absolutely. I can't wait as well. And so can these fans who are giving their video predictions for the game. And this includes Patriots fan from Third and Long Podcast, Ollie Butler-Henderson.
Hey Andy, it's Ollie here from the Third and Long Podcast, as you can see behind me. Giving you a prediction for Patriots versus the Texans this weekend in the divisional round. Who would have thought at the start of the season the Patriots would have been here, or even the Texans when they were 2-4, whatever it was at the start of the season, but they went on a ridiculous run. Thanks to their defense being the number 1 scoring defense or number 2 scoring defense overall in the NFL. But for me personally, they're the best defense in the league at the moment, the Texans, and they showed it with putting the Steelers to the sword last weekend. I still think the Patriots can win if they can protect Drake May. They're going to win the game. Simple as. Keep Drake May standing up. They'll do fine. I do think the Patriots defense can get to CJ Stroud and make his life really difficult. Patriots win 24-10. Enjoy divisional. Have a good weekend, mate. Stay safe.
Hi, I'm Graham Henderson, aka the Kilter Texan. I'm back again to talk about this week's divisional round of the Houston Texans against the New England Patriots. Now, this week is a huge ask for the Texans D. Drake May is extremely good at gashing people through with the deep ball. That we cannot allow happen. We have been known to give up some chunk plays, but we've got to nullify that. Also, May is very good at getting out of the pocket and using his legs when he's mobile. That is all about containment for this team. We're going to need to rely on the linebackers, and Jalen Petrie is going to have to play like he did last week and just to null that out. looking on offense, CJ Stroud can't have that type of first half that he had. He will be punished for that in this game. Woody Marks is going to have to be relied on heavily again to run the ball down their throat. That might lead us to taking over this game. And the security blankets of Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover will need to be there with no Nico Collins in sight. Massive matchup. They have the last 2 divisional rounds up there on us. We haven't been past this stage. Let's go and make history, guys. Houston Texans 21-14 for the win. Texans D. Let's go.
And there we are. And hope you all enjoyed the episode. So first of all, Charlie, huge thank you for coming on today.
Very welcome. Always good to see you, Andy.
Yeah, you too, mate. You too. And hope you enjoy the divisional round. Every game but Bills. I hope you enjoy the Bills Broncos.
As probably some people know, I help out with London Bills backers, and we've got about we got a full pub and maybe having to have a second pub to cope with all the fans. So it's going to be a hectic one for us.
Wow, well, have a good time, mate. Hopefully not too much of a good time, because I don't want you to be happy on that Sunday morning. I want you to be annoyed at a loss to the Bills. But either way, I hope you have a good time. I hope you enjoy it, and hope it's a good day regardless. And enjoy the rest of the games.
Thanks, Andy. Good to see you.
You too, mate. But this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I've been, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, with our guest in Bills fan, Charlie Nelson from the Bills from Afar podcast. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.